Hey there. Thanks so much for joining us over at Out on a Limb with Gabby Allan. Today I have a really great pleasure of introducing you to Jeny Heckman. I am super excited to have her here. We're going to be talking books. We're going to be laughing. You are going to be laughing with us. I'm just putting it out there now. So maybe if you're in your office, go close your door. I'm just warning you.
I
So,
love it.
as everyone knows, if you've watched this before, listened to this before, I come with exactly one question, and that is, Jeny, what is it that you do, and how do you do it?
Well, first, thank you very much for having me. This is
My
really, really
pleasure.
awesome. I love this. Um, what do I do and how do I do it? I really honestly have no idea. I
A
am
sprinkle of
probably,
magic, sprinkle of magic, a little backwards dancing, full moon,
yeah,
and you're good.
maybe
Okay.
maybe a little schizophrenia. I don't know because I just sit there and shout all the time. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes, as we do, as we do. Thank you, my
uh,
sister in the shouty club. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I guess I was a pantser that turned into a plotter, or maybe I use a combination of both, but I write
Yes.
paranormal romance or
Oh,
fantasy romance, whichever
yes.
way you like to look at that.
Both.
However, I don't like the whole witches, warlocks, and all of that kind of deal. So mine are the
Okay.
Greek gods. I work with the Greek gods.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
okay. Interesting. So do
yeah.
you do like gorgons and stuff? That is Greek, is it? Is it Greek or is that Roman?
They are, that is Greek.
Okay.
No, mine is pretty much, so I work kind of in two worlds. It's really the Greek gods in their world,
Mhm.
but they have a prophecy made upon them that is going to doom them into Tartarus. If
Always.
not, these weird weakling mortals in modern day save
Uh-huh.
them.
Oh,
So really, there's kind of a thing that happens in the prologue that kind of explains the Greek god world, and then
okay.
there is basically the love story and the prophecy part working its magic in modern day. And the big thing
That
about it
is cool.
is these modern day mortals don't believe in mythical Greek gods, but they have to save them. So
I mean, is there a better combination? So the
right?
gods are not falling in love with humans. The humans are falling in love with humans.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
descendants of the Greek gods. And really,
Ooh,
the only thing about them is that they have one drop of blood from the Greek gods. And they
yes.
have to find each other and they have to solve a couple of things. But really, it is more of a modern day romance trying to wrap your mind around the fact that you're part of this big, huge thing that you're not even sure if you believe in, because after all, they are Greek gods
Yeah.
and they're not real. So
Yeah. It's
that's,
funny. I've thought of that before because, like, I was always, when I was younger, I was very fascinated with the Norse gods
yeah, yeah,
and like Celtic things. And
yeah,
so I always thought, well, what if like they are real? Like,
yeah, yeah.
someone must have thought that Freya was the shit one day, or
Yeah.
they would have never believed in that. And I was actually born in Hawaii. And so my grandfather was very into Hawaiian stuff. And so, like, all of the Hawaiian gods and the pantheon for the Hawaiians, there's a lot of them.
Oh,
And,
so
I'm
much.
like, this used to be someone's life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
their whole world was run by whether, if there was a tornado, that was because so and so was pissed.
Yeah.
And, so I find that fascinating. So are you enjoying playing with that? I'm assuming you do, but how do you enjoy playing with that concept?
It really is fun. And then, yeah, it all does come from this basis of, I mean, there's actually mention of Zeus in the Bible, which is weird.
I
To
did
me,
not know
that's
that.
bizarre. Yeah.
Huh.
They talk about the ruler. It's I don't remember the verse or anything like that,
No,
but it
that's
was
okay.
there is one. I think you can connect them. But
Interesting.
yeah, it's a fascinating world. I really loved it when I was in middle school and high school. And I
Yeah.
always liked the idea of these gods, but there's people that still practice it as a religion in Greece. So,
I
you can't just say, because it's somebody's, for some people, it's their religion. But
yeah.
yeah, so, oh, here, she's my wonderful assistant said it's the
I
book of
love
Acts, chapter 14, that talks about Zeus and the
Interesting.
Greek gods. So anyway,
That is fascinating.
yeah. So anyway, I really do like the idea of these arrogant, kind of condescending gods who get to just basically have orgies and drink wine all day, and and make havoc for everybody, being these people that are now dependent on the mortals that they rule over, and they don't even believe in them. So it's kind of like a thing. I like that.
Yes.
The modern day people, I like the idea of them being terribly flawed, but I do like the idea of the women being strong, and that they all have to overcome their own flaws. Not that they're trying to change each other's flaws, if that makes sense. They have to learn about it. Yeah. So
those are the books I like. I like the ones where it's always interesting to me. Like there was a huge debate for years with the Tom Cruise movie where she says, "You complete me," and and people are like, "No, you don't." Oh, I love that. I think that's lovely. And then others are like, "You don't complete me." I always enjoyed the "you compliment me." As in, I am actually pretty good all on my own. Like chicken can be good on its own, but with a dash of rosemary, you have something different. And so if you want to be my dash of rosemary and you compliment what I've already got going on, I'm your girl. But I don't need you to step in and make me whole because I already am. And I really like the idea of the strong women too. That's very cool. I love too that you're kind of bringing the gods down and saying, "All right, see what you can do here." That is awesome. So how many books are in your series?
So there will be 6. I've written 2, and then I have a novella. So what I was asking the fans, who would you like to know more about? Because I had a little bit of time, but not enough to get the book 3 done. And and they were saying overwhelmingly the 78-year-old Hawaiian woman who is very eccentric, and she wears very loud muumuus, and she wears hats with these rings around them that might have a monkey bumping over the side, or kumquats, whatever. She's crazy.
I'm on board.
But she's so fun, and I love her. And they wanted to know her life story. So she has quite a life story. So this book, which is Dee's Cornucopia, it's about her life, and it's just a novella, but it's all about her life and why she is. There is a couple of things in it where you'll go, "Oh, that makes more sense for the series." You don't need to know the series necessarily to read this book. So so I am on book 3 now. I'm about halfway through book 3. And so it's been fun. The first book is about Apollo and Poseidon's descendants. Book 2 is about Ares and Hera's descendants. It's been such a fun journey. It's been great.
Sounds that way. That's awesome. So this is your first, these are your first 2 books, or do you have anything else that you do?
So this is my Heaven and Earth series, but I do have a women's fiction book out, and that's called Releasing the Catch, and it's a complete one. It's completely different than this. It's a contemporary women's fiction book, and it's about a woman crab fisherman up in Alaska on the Bering Sea, and how it's taboo for women to be on fishing vessels, but she has a whole story as to why she is the way she is, and she's just a total badass. I love her. I love her so much. She's great. And it's about kind of a surrogate father that she has as well. And so it's kind of 2 stories that parallel each other, little different. And then I have a short story called Dancing Through Tears, which is a book about my family's experience at Route 91, which we were my kids were at that concert. I was in Mandalay Bay, and my husband was on the casino floor. So I did a little short story on that to benefit the wildfire victims. Were you part of that? Did you do
I was not. No, but my sister-in-law was also at that concert.
Oh, wow. Oh, great. It's not great, but it's
no, I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So yeah, I never wanted to profit from it, but I liked the idea of helping the wildfire victims. And so I wrote that pretty quickly and put it part of the anthology. And so D's is actually my 5th book, but only the 3rd one of the series.
Right.
So,
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did an anthology once. We used to have a book signing at a nursery, a plant nursery near here. And the whole day was was supporting women's, like domestic violence, women's shelters. And we used to do a set of short stories together, like an anthology. And the first sentence of every single story was exactly the same. But then the rest of the story was totally different. So like I wrote a contemporary, a friend of mine wrote a sci-fi, another one wrote a paranormal, another one wrote a dystopian, somebody else wrote a romantic suspense, but the first sentence was always exactly the same. And then we did a second one, and the second sentence was always exactly the same. And so I think we made it through 3. I know for certain we did 2, but we didn't want to make anything off of it, like you said, but we loved being able to say, here you go. This is what we made from this. And this is, we want to support your efforts in whatever it is that you're doing. So I love that you're, with the wildfires and stuff, that is something that obviously speaks to you. And so then, making it possible to be able to help them is just, that's awesome.
It's really very rewarding, isn't it, when you can be part of something a little bigger than yourself? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So after 6 books, like, are you positioning yourself, since you have the women's fiction, but it sounds like you've got a lot more paranormals with the gods, do you want to position yourself as somebody that's what you write, or do you think you're going to rock back and forth between the women's fiction some also?
Well, I have been kind of thinking about an idea for a political thriller too.
Shiny squirrel over there. There it is. Shiny squirrel.
My gosh!
Yeah, no, I got you.
It's that's hard. I actually wrote a book, and that's not out, and it's called Civility, and it was about essentially what is happening right now in our world. And I wrote it like years ago. But when the climate of the world started to change, this political vitriol that started, I decided I didn't want to be part of that. So I didn't finish it. Now I kind of wish that I had, because I would have been a prophet.
You're like, come follow me for more life hacks. I got
you. Well, but so to answer your question, I probably will stick with the paranormal fantasy world.
Okay.
But I think I will write maybe some novellas or some shorter stories that are kind of a foot into just a contemporary kind of women's. I love the empowerment of women. I love showing characters that are strong. I love women promoting other women. I love all of that. And so I think I want to I like the idea of keeping both of them in my life. Just because there's a lot of stories to tell, right? Women are badasses. So.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that you have to choose one or another. I think that some people feel very pegged. It kind of depends on how you look at things. Yeah. So like under the Simon name, I wrote, oh my gosh, years and years ago, I wrote an erotic, which I don't want anyone to go try to find. And let's not do that. But and then I wrote, I retold a fairy tale once in another anthology. And then I did contemporary romance, and I did really sexy cozy mystery, which I didn't know that you're not allowed to do sexy. Nobody told me that. I just did it. And some people loved it. So I ran with it. And I did paranormal, and I did just all these different things. And then somebody was like, ooh, Amazon has trouble putting you into the right area because you have different genres. You're not boxed up in one place. And I'm like, you know what? Okay. I'm fine with that. I'm not, it is a choice, I think, that you make sometimes, especially if you're coming into this now, as opposed to 2005, when I was getting my foot in the door. You know more now, so you can say, I am willingly making the choice to do a couple different things under the same name. Because
Yeah.
I think I was actually talking to another author last week, and it was very interesting. She said, my core story is always going to be the romance. It's how I choose to wrap it that's different.
Ooh,
And
I
I was
like
like,
that.
ooh, hold
Yeah.
on, I must write that down. And she's
Yeah.
laughing. And I'm like, no, I can listen and write at the same time. Keep it coming. But,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that like my stories are always about women who have flaws. They own those flaws, and they are going to make the best life possible for themselves without having to be perfect.
Right?
And the
Yeah.
guy that comes along and appreciates that,
Yeah.
doesn't try to change it, doesn't think that she needs to be more of this or more of that or less of this or less of that. She is who she is. You love her for who she is. Help her get through this. Now,
Yeah.
recently, those have all been mysteries. So people are dying left and right,
Yeah. Yeah.
killing people all over the place on the page,
Yeah.
not kill,
On the page.
just to
Make
make
a
clear.
note there.
Yeah. Yes. Please listen to the on the page part. But like so to me, if you pick up a Misty Simon, whether or not it's um a paranormal, because I do write witches, I don't
Oh.
necessarily do the warlock, but I have right now, I'm writing a series, I'm self-publishing it actually, where they're at a Ren fair and she runs it, and they're not witches in the spell casting kind of witch. They're more like, that's what I would call anybody who has magic or the ability to do magic.
Yeah.
But she's got like, she crosses souls into Hades. And
Oh.
so like, and the dog that she gets is actually a Cerberus, but
Ah.
everything in the fair is wrong.
Ah.
So the dog is actually a little tiny chow. And yeah. and, and he's just like a little pom pom kind of running around,
That's
because he doesn't
hysterical.
have three heads. So at what he was supposed to be, a seer, and she was supposed to be able to tell the future, and she couldn't. And so she got ostracized. And so everybody there is ostracized for some reason. Like the werewolf can only change his nose and his tail. The dragon
Okay.
person can only blow smoke. So it's all different kinds of magic, but at the core is a heroine who has flaws, that owns them and works with them, and then the guy who finds her. So do you find that even with your women's fiction and then the short stories that you've done, and then the longer books that you're doing with, you said Heaven and Earth?
Heaven and Earth series. Yeah.
Heaven and Earth
Yeah.
series. Do you find that your core story is pretty much always the same, so you know what you're getting when you pick up a Jeny Heckman?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's now Releasing the Catch, when I wrote that, kind of like you, I like writing outside the box. I mean, when I,
The box doesn't exist to us. It
right,
is it is flattened. It's already out in recycling.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
bring it back
yeah.
in.
I get really frustrated
Yes.
because to me, I like writing kind of realistic, kind of,
Yes.
when I am writing something, even if it's a fantasy or whatever, I like it
Yeah.
being kind of based in reality.
Yeah.
And so like with my women's fiction story, a lot of people don't like it because there's a lot of cussing and there's a lot of, sex, and there's a lot of this stuff. However, they're Alaska fishermen and that's what they do. I know Alaska fishermen and I know how they talk, and
Yes.
and I gotta, you got people that, have a hard lifestyle. Well, there's
Yes.
going to be hard results that come from that. And so
Yes.
not every story is a happy ending and not everything is a, gets
Perfect.
wrapped up in any bow, and sex is kind of awkward and whatever. And it's
Yes.
not always perfect and hair stroking and
Right.
so
3 hours later, and you're like, oh my
yeah.
God.
Hell?
What have
No,
you
may
been
it last
doing
3
for
hours.
this?
What the hell?
I mean, are you really not capable of going any faster? Because I got stuff to do.
I got a lot of stuff to do. Come on,
Yeah.
I got to write another book. What the hell? Yeah.
It's funny because I too like to write realistic people. And I have had some people who, there's some people who are like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And then there are other people who wanted more of the romance fantasy, not necessarily fantasy like you're talking about with the gods and stuff, but they the fantasy of a perfect relationship
Yeah.
with a perfect guy, and you're perfect and you look perfect and your hair is always nice and you're always smiling and you laugh well and you don't look ugly when you cry. And my thing is, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah. There's bad
My
breath
thighs
and there's
touch.
all kinds of
Yes.
messiness and there's all,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So here's just a quick little funny story. My husband and I, we met in all the wrong ways. We met and we were married 3 months later. We just decided we were going to elope. So we ran off and we eloped.
Taking a chance on stuff.
Taking a chance, yeah.
Why not?
And you know, you hear those stories when you're young, especially I think people who grew up in you know, came of age in the 70s and 80s. You hear all these stories, that Disney kind of version of you guys, the two get married and they become one and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I still was kind of in that phase, and we get married on the beach, and the guy is sitting there saying a Cahill Gibran poem, which is, you know, you are two strings on a lute that quiver with the same music, but you're not together. And I was sitting there going, what the hell are you talking about? We're supposed to be one person, and he's supposed to look at me great all the time, and I'm never supposed to like flop. And I'm just sitting there going, I hate this. What is this? Should have done more research.
Right.
And
who allowed this? Who's doing it?
And it wound up being this prophetic thing, because my husband and I actually do that. My husband and I, we have separate lives and we have our life together, and it's beautiful and it's perfect, and it's not perfect. You know, it's like it works out really, really great
for you.
Exactly.
And I think that's what some people miss, is that look, there are plenty of marriages around me that I look at and I'm like, I would never survive that.
Yeah.
That does not mean that somebody else is not uniquely built for that person.
Yeah.
Because if you looked at my marriage, if somebody tried to live with my husband, there would probably be things that they're like, how in the world do you put up with this? And I'm like, but how in the world does he put up with me? Yeah. Like, I have my own stuff, you know, and we also, like, I do the writing, and I also have a full-time job, but he has a full-time job. And so, like, I find our conversations very cool because he's doing one thing, I'm doing another thing. We come in together and we talk about them both. We don't do everything together, because then what on earth do we have to talk about? Yeah. Because I know exactly what happened. I guess you could give me your thoughts, but other than that, I'm pretty sure you did that while we were, you know, out on the trail or whatever. And so I like the difference. I don't like, I would not do well in a marriage where I then become your shadow. Yeah. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who thrive in those. And I am never going to judge anyone for whatever decisions that they make. But my heroines in my books are going far more like me. And they're going to find somebody that, even if he's not perfect in everybody else's eyes, it doesn't matter, because he's perfect in hers.
Exactly. That's exactly how I look at it too. Yeah.
Oh,
and I
love
look at it with my hubby. It's 29 this year, so we did something right for 3 months dating. Yeah, we did something right. So.
Happy upcoming anniversary. That is very awesome. And I think sometimes that people do. I've seen people, like, in books and stuff, that if it's not flawless, then it has to be crap. And I don't always, like, I struggle with that black and white of a picture. There are gray areas in there, and that's where the work comes in. Like, you don't get married and then everything's perfect. Like, you get married and then the real work starts because you have to share a house and bills and, you know, disappointments and big things and little things. And so that's really cool. So these are the things that show up in your books too.
Yeah. And awesome. Like, you know, like with my first character, Raven Hunter, who is the daughter of Apollo. She's this famous singer. She's this famous worldwide singer. Everybody thinks her life is perfect. She's beautiful and perfect, and everything's great with her. But she is actually very crippling shy. And most people, you know, I actually had a review once that said it was the only real, I guess if you're going to call it a negative one, said no one would behave this way. And I'm like, oh yeah, this was me.
Isn't
I
that
behaved
funny?
this way, I'm so sorry that you don't understand it, but
Yeah.
it's, people do have their issues and whatever, and then
Absolutely.
they do grow and they come out of it,
Yeah.
and they become stronger people as a result. So my characters are very flawed, and they've got issues and they got problems, and like you said, they're trying to figure them out the best way they know how. And they find somebody that can compliment them, make them a better person,
right,
that they can do that in reverse. And so it's
I love it.
I like them.
I love it. And that's the kind of stories that always speak to me. I like, and I'm not saying I'm not in for a good princess tale every once in a while. I will still sit down and watch Snow White or Cinderella. I mean, I do really would like to know where the singing animals are, though, that clean dishes, because I'm a little disappointed. It's all right if I don't have Prince Charming, but I sure would like a bird to come in and do my laundry.
Right.
So, where is that? But I mean, I think that, like, and I love Princess Bride. I love,
I love it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Two flawed people. I mean,
exactly. Very flawed. And yet they managed to make it work between them, getting through obstacles together, apart, because of each other, in spite of each other. Like, I love that kind of chemistry. And so it is really nice. Sometimes there is a struggle for some people to get into something that's not perfect. And for those people, they're looking for the ultimate escape. And I'm glad that there are books out there that they can find. Theirs are not going to be mine. Mine you're going to laugh because for the 7th time she's done the 7th stupid thing, and she keeps telling herself she's not going to do that anymore, but she will, because that's me. And earlier I was wondering why my chair was uncomfortable, and it was because I was sitting on a book. Why is this? So I got up and I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting on a book. So I go over to my kid and I'm like, I worry about myself sometimes. She's like, yeah. I worry about you too. But to me, that's one of the things that I'm fine with. That's not something that needs to change. I don't need to, that's there's nothing wrong with that. Could it be considered a flaw? Absolutely. But it's also something that gives my personality something extra. And I'm okay with that. And I like, to me, I'm sure that there are people who read your books and those characters stick with them, because they're not perfect. And they, I love when people will say, oh my gosh, I totally saw myself in this person. And I'm like, well, we're new best friends then. Because that person is me.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And making somebody feel like they're not alone and giving them the magic of the Greek gods. That's pretty awesome. I am super
kind of fun.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, you are publishing how? Are you with the Wild Rose Press?
I am with Wild Rose Press, but I also self-publish as well. So I do both. And I like doing both. It is kind of nice, just kind of having the freedom to just do your own thing is nice too. So I am with Wild Rose Press. They've been great. Great.
Yeah, I like them. I've actually started publishing with them in 2006. Back in the day. I know, right? It's funny because we used to call ourselves the Roses, which I think some people still do, but we were in the garden. So we were roses blooming in a garden. And I said that to somebody the other day and they're like, huh? I was like, oh, have I now aged myself to the point where we don't do that anymore? I'm going to have to think about that, because I might not be okay. And, but I love their stuff. I mean, yes, I also do publish with Kensington. I have published with Harlequin. I've done self-publishing. I like the spectrum of things, but I really do like what the Wild Rose Press does with books. They have good covers. They have good coverage. They have good, my editor, I've had the same editor since 2006, which I'm surprised she's still with me, because I'm pretty sure I should have replaced her comic key like at least 9 times, maybe 14 by now. Every book, I'm like, ooh, Nan, I'm really sorry.
You have Nan?
I do, Nan Swanson.
Yeah. Okay.
I love her, but I'm like, I bet this was a rough one with the comments, wasn't it? She's like, yes.
I have problems with commas too, and I have Diane, and she's the same thing. She's just she's a comma not. She does not like the whole overuse of commas, and I try really hard, but I never get it right.
See, I underuse commas. She's always typing the new ones in, and I'm like, Nan, no. And she's like, yes, knock it off, do it, or I'm going to do it for you. And I'm like, all right, fine. And so I did for one Christmas. I was like, so what color is your keyboard? And she was like, why are you asking that? And I'm like, because I feel like I should probably replace your comma key. And she's like, it still works. It's just faded. And I'm like, do you want me to send you like whiteout so you could redraw the comma on there? She's like, you're ridiculous. I said, I know. That's what I do best. I do ridiculous very well. You laugh, don't you? And she's like, I love it.
I love it. I think that's perfect. Yeah, I probably owe Diane the same thing.
You should offer it to her. You're like, hey, I heard Dan gets this offer of a new comic key. I'm thinking I should probably swing one your way too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, the thing is though, because I had said to Nan once, I'm really sorry, like for all of this comma nonsense. And she's like, so let me just put it out to you here. If you send me a perfect manuscript, what is my job?
Oh,
and I was like, okay. So she goes, now that is not permission to not put any commas in there. I'm just saying that my job is to help you write the best possible book that you can. And if that means commas, then that means commas, you know? And I was like, all right, well, I don't want to hear you screaming from 3 states away again when I send you another. She's like, I love seeing your stuff in my inbox, so don't even do that. And I was like, okay. It's funny because at one point she had moved. So we started out contemporary romance together. And then she moved into, they used to have a vintage line. And I don't know if they still call it that. But she was moving into like 1920 stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't write that. And she's like, oh, no, I already told Rhonda I'm taking you with me. Okay. Thank you for not making me go to anybody else because I would have cried. She's like,
it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I love her, you know, I mean, and that's, I do appreciate being with Kensington. I do love Essie Soga is my editor there. And she's fantastic. But this is different. And this has been, the Wild Rose Press is more like a little family.
They are. Yeah, they really are. Yeah. The support that you get. I mean, you put one little thing out. Can you share this? And I mean, well, you can actually just look at the Australia Burns anthology. I mean, when Stephen put his thing out and he said, hey, we need help. Yeah. I mean, they needed 3 volumes. So, I mean, it is really awesome. Cool. That's one of my favorite things about them. Yeah.
And yet I do like self-publishing because like this Magically Suspicious that I was telling you about, their novellas, I'm putting them out every other month on the 13th of the month. So I chose the odd months and I chose the 13th. Well, most books come out on Tuesdays. I'm not going to ask the Wild Rose Press to take one of their slots every other month on a 13th and go outside of what they normally do. So it made sense to me and my kid goes to Savannah College of Art and Design. And so I have a cover artist that I do still pay, just in case anyone is wondering, I do still pay. But so my covers come from them. And I, you know, have this thing that I get to do with them that's slightly different, and it's a little farther off the beaten path maybe than the Wild Rose Press would have been open to taking. I didn't really ask. I just said I'm doing this on my own, and Nan was like, well, I want one of those, so you better stick to me when you're done. I was like, it's in the mail. All right, so that instead of a comic key, and she's like, it'll do. So you know, I mean, I think when it comes down to it, there are different avenues, and there is a lot to be said. So one of the things that I try to do in these podcasts is encourage people who think that, you know, you have to be with a traditional publisher, or you have to write this kind of story, or I should give up because I got rejected a couple of times. Try to encourage them that there are as many ways to do this as there are people doing it. And if you end up going the self-publishing route because you want to, there's nothing wrong with that,
No.
and there's nothing wrong with being a hybrid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do both. And there are certain things that you do for one that maybe you wouldn't do for another. So
Yeah.
these 3 are with the Wild Rose Press, and then you're going to do the other 3 with the Wild Rose Press. And then at 6, do you think you'll be done? Or do you
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
okay.
the whole story is complete in my head. I just got to get it down on paper. And I am this one, the third one, I've had some life events that have really sidetracked me with this one. So it is a much longer than I would normally do. But I'm also kind of writing a little bit. There's a murder. So I have to this one is a little bit interesting. It's Hades and Aphrodite. So it's the 2 of their descendants. And it's been a challenge. So just trying to kind of stay on top of the business side of everything and then get your writing in and then also do your life stuff is, it's a bit of a challenge. So
it's not easy. It's not. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of the word writer's block. I think because that indicates that it's something that you have to like always climb over or get on top of, or it requires some kind of push through. Whereas I feel like I've also had some life events, and to me, it's kind of giving yourself the grace to be where you're at and do the things that you need to do, because the writing will be there when you come back. And your readers will be there when you come back, because there are some people who push themselves to the brink thinking they're going to forget who I am if I don't have there was a period in the Romance Writers of America for a while. I used to belong to them, excuse me. And there was a while there, especially when self-publishing kind of had started ramping up, where if you weren't putting a book out every month, you were going to be forgotten. And if you did not, you better have 12 books a year available for them, and you better not fall down on your date. And this has to be done, and that has to be done, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And I tried at first to do that. And before I even got the first one out, I was like, nope. And that was years ago. I just started self-publishing for the first time this year. But I was like, I'm not doing that, because really, if my stories don't make an impression on you enough that you can wait 6 months for one, I'm not really sure what to tell you. Maybe you'll find me again then. Maybe one of your friends will read me and you're like, oh, I used to read her. I should go pick up her next book. And I'm fine with that. I'm not going to put myself on the fire. And then, because to me, when I started putting myself on the fire, I was turning out crap stories.
Right. Yeah.
So great. That's exactly you have a story, but crappy. So would you rather have a good story that that I have put my whole heart into? Or do you want my grocery list with some he's and she's and a couple of seds in it? Because I can give you that. But I think that sometimes we put ourselves in these positions where it's like, if I don't feed this machine, it's going to stop working. And that's not true. It just pauses.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that want to go out there and self-publish, my only advice to them is just make sure your copies are clean. Make sure that they do go to an editor somewhere. Because that's really sad to me when you've got a good story and it's so distracting because your writing is, you just don't, you need it polished. And so that's the only hard thing about the self-publishing thing. But put a little bit of time and money into your editor, maybe put a little time and money into an interior designer or something that can make it look more professional. But so
I struggle with that when I look at certain stories, because I'm like, okay, here's the thing. I wrote a story once and I sent it to my critique partners, and they came back and they're like, I don't understand what happened here. And I'm like, well, it's right there. And they're like, show me. And I looked in and I was like, oh my gosh, that's in my brain. I thought it was there, and it's not. And that's okay. But that's why you have an editor, so that they can say, this is not coming off correctly. I don't think you want to do quite this. Are you sure that this is where you wanted to go with that? They are professionals for a reason, and I think that if you're going to spend money on anything, definitely get the editor. And as somebody who knows how to do covers, like
Yeah.
even just
Yeah.
to look at it, like if you want to create it, I know there's Canva and BookBrush and all that kind of stuff where you can create your own. But I really like, there have been a couple of times with the Wild Rose Press where I'm like, why did we make this decision? And they're like,
Yeah.
these are the things that are selling on the market right now, and this is what people are looking for in the thumbnail. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Exactly.
professional, for helping me see what it is that you're doing. Like, I mean, I always laugh at that because it's like, I'm not cutting my own hair. There are people who do that for a reason. I
Yeah.
got in a lot of trouble for cutting my hair once, so I never tried it again. But like there are people who do that kind of stuff for a reason. Do I expect you to go pay $7,000 to get your manuscript edited? Please don't do that.
No,
That's a whole lot of money. You can find
that
somebody
is.
else. But I do hope that you will value your work enough to put it in front of somebody, another set of eyes that are not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's going to do you a world of good, and more people are going to be interested, invested into your story that way. Yeah.
Well, and people will pick up the next one, because even if they do make it through the first one without throwing it across the room and making a hole in the wall, they may not pick up the second one. They may think, all right, look, I spent the money. I'm not letting this go to waste. I will finish this out. That was a relatively good story, but I was so distracted by the grammar that I just can't do this a second time. And even if you got an editor the second time, they still not take a chance on it, because how are they going to know? Now you're going to put like a big red stamp on it that says editor approved. I don't think that's how that works.
It's not going to work.
You have one chance.
The one great advice that I got from my editor one time was, if you have to explain it, you're not going to be able to explain it to 50,000 people. So like if you're sitting there, no, this is what I meant by that.
No,
then it's not clear. It's not a good script. It's not, you have to, you do have to, it should all be explained. There should be no I don't understand that.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, it's a tricky business. I am super happy though that I get to talk to people like you and other authors, editors, agents, publishers, whoever, because I think it really benefits people to see what's going on currently, and then how can I improve myself. And where to me, this is not a lecture. This is all just us yakking, and if somebody gets something out of it, then that's super awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I love helping people on their journey, and if I can do that, I'm all on board. I mean, give me the conductor's hat, I'll pull the whistle, we've got this. But I want to do it in a forum where people feel like we're talking like friends, as opposed to a 0.1a Roman numeral 2. I get hives just from thinking in Roman numerals. So, well, this has been so much fun. I'm so excited that you were able to come on and be with us today. Where can we find you, and like what's coming up next?
So where you can find me is jenyheckman.com, and I spell my name a little funny, so it's JenyHeckman. So jenyheckman.com. That's where my world is. And and then what's coming up is book 3. It's called Soul Predilection. Again, I'm about halfway through. And all my titles have something to do with who's in it. And the first one was the Sea Archer, second one was Warrior's Progeny. This one is Soul Predilection. And it's I'm hoping that I can get going on it here and get it out soon.
I got you. If you ever need some prodding, you let me know, because I am not the nicest person when it comes to Monday mornings, and I'm like, all right, Jeny, what are you doing this week? Give me a rundown, because I'm checking with you next Monday. Okay.
I do like that.
I would be willing to throw you. I actually have a small list of people that I do that with, and I would be happy to put you on there.
Wow.
I'm not mean or anything, but I certainly, I find that, because I then respond with what I'm doing. And so it's like it's accountability, but it's not like a daily basis thing. Like, I don't need to be watched every day. I don't like the idea of having to respond to every day, because some days suck and some days you make up for the sucky day. But I mean, I love the idea of just saying, hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
And you're
that's
like, oh,
awesome.
you know what? Today kind of sucks. This weekend will not suck. I'll get back to you next Monday. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll be here.
perfect.
So,
Perfect.
all
I
right,
love
well,
it.
we'll do that. We'll do that. But
Okay.
I am super excited. I am definitely going to go one click your first in the series, probably the second also, because I get impatient and I want to have them right now. And I'm excited about the idea of the Greek gods, and I love the way that you explain it. So
Perfect.
thank you again
Thank
for
you.
being here.
No, thank you.
Sure. This has
I
been a
really appreciate
blast.
it. It has been.
Absolutely.
Talking to a friend. It's been great. It's been great.
It is
So
fun, isn't it? I feel
yeah,
like we should have coffee, or I should be able to like pass one
absolutely.
through the screen to you.
Yeah.
I offer to everyone, just for your information and anyone who's listening, if you have any comments, any questions, anything that you think Jeny or I could answer for you, please drop it in the comments, and we would be happy to get that information to you. We're all about letting people learn what it is that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And I will also put Jeny's links into the description box. So that will have the website and that kind of thing, so that you can also go, and maybe we'll just, chat about how awesome the Greek gods are. And maybe we've all
Nice.
missed that. So, but thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
guys absolutely coming in for another Out on a Limb with Gabby Allan. I hope you have an amazing day, and take care of yourself.
And you too as well. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.